Good evening, everybody. It's 8 o'clock on Tuesday. You know what that means? Time for the fun. And I'm trying to click buttons here and not make too big of a mess. But anyway, my name is Lee, and you're watching the Overland Radio Show, and we appreciate you joining us. Before we get started with everything tonight, as always, thank you to our sponsors, Overland Attic, Midland Radios, Midland USA, and Rugged Bound. We appreciate all that you do for us and helping us bring all this content to you. I will openly admit that I am tired. We had a guest scheduled for tonight. Unfortunately, there's something happening with our guest and just scheduling and whatnot. They couldn't make it, so we're going to do it another night. But Ashley and I, and we'll bring her in a minute, we have some topics that we think will be of interest to many of you. Probably not all of you, but many of you. So let's bring Ashley in with us.
What's up, trouble?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I was asleep before, like at 7, right at 7 o'clock. Felicia goes, "Hey, are you gonna do your radio show?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's not anywhere near 7 o'clock."
I think that's about the time I texted you, like, we are doing this tonight, right?
And she's like, "It is 7 o'clock." Oh man. Anyway, it happens. I was up early, and of course, I have a weird sleep schedule anyway, so that's it. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Tired too, but that's because I spent the last 2 nights relearning how to do some Algebra 1 equations.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Chat GTP is your friend.
So I did use that a couple of times. I'm not going to lie, for a couple of the problems, but they give you the answers. They don't explain to you how to get it. So I'm trying to teach Gavin how to do this so he could for his test today. I was like, oh, fuck, this is going to be terrible. So I literally had to teach myself how to do some algebra the past couple of days. But I did it.
Good for you.
I'm feeling pretty proud of myself.
She can't teach a 50-year-old dog new tricks.
Again with this 50-year-old bullshit. You know I'm not 50.
For those of you who don't know, Ashley had a birthday just a few days back, and she's officially old.
I am, but I'm 40, not 50.
All right, whatever. You know, Chad said something at the camp out this weekend, and we'll get to that in a minute, but he said, yeah, when I was young, I used to think 40 was old. Now I'm 40, and it's just not that old.
No, it's really not.
So, yeah, it really isn't too terribly bad, honestly. Could be worse.
Everyone's asked, like, do you feel any different? And my response is, no, I feel the same. Like, it's no different. But Jeff had me so freaked out because when he turned 40, legitimately the day he turned 40, he threw his back out getting out of bed.
Oops.
So I was like terrified that I'm just going to fall apart because he did.
Good news is you're not going to fall apart. You'll be fine.
Yes.
Bad news is you guys have missed the first 2 of the polar bear campouts.
I know. So this is terrible. I want to hear all about this.
Well, it's a good camp out. For those of you who don't know, there's a polar bear camping club thing going on right now in the Midwest. Here, I say Midwest, Central U.S., whatever you want to call it. But there's 4 states, 4 campouts. Technically, it's actually 5, really. You have Oklahoma, which we've already had. I missed that one because the day I was getting ready to go, we had flu and some other whatever funkiness, and it finally caught me. Actually didn't go to that one.
I don't remember why we didn't go to that one. Now,
you didn't have the camper ready.
Well, still don't have the camper ready.
You know, and so that one, it was like 5 degrees, I think, or something. It was cold, legit cold.
Right.
So the second one was held this past weekend in Missouri at the Bar K or Bar K Wrangler Camp or something like that.
Right.
It was a great time. The weather was pretty mild, honestly. A lot of people there. I think I don't know what well, I want to say 57 rigs was the official count, maybe 57, somewhere around in there. So there's quite a few people there. Even had a couple of trailer loads of mules show up, and some people saddled those up, and who I don't know who they were. They weren't with our group.
Right.
And went riding donkeys around, which was kind of neat. So had a dessert cook off, and it was good.
I heard about the donkeys. I didn't know about the dessert cook-off. But I'm still pissed off you ate my pie.
And so, well, I mean, anyway, we could talk about that later, but I didn't actually eat your pie. Your pie just didn't get made because you weren't going to be there.
That's not what Chad said.
And so, yeah, but Chad was trying to stir the pot. Maybe. I don't know. Either way,
No.
Chad. Hey, look, here's all that matters. Chad got a pie. I got a pie.
Yeah. Your pie was supposed to be my pie. And
no, there's supposed to be 3 pies made. I always get a pie.
You get a pie at more. You don't get it any other time.
Yeah, I do. Are you crazy?
Not for my birthday, you don't.
Nobody cares about their birthday. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. You'll eventually get the pie. Don't worry about it. But Leanne was actually sick, and so you not going saved her from having to make the 3rd pie. So that was
this
good.
Is true.
And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Chad from Overland Addict's wife, Leanne, makes the most absolute amazing pecan pie I've ever had. And I'm from the South, and I'd like to consider myself somewhat of a pecan connoisseur. And hers, top shelf. It's the best. So anyway, so the camp out was good. The polar bear camp out was great. The next one's in 2 weeks, down in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I think I'm saying. Anyway, it's at the Gypsy Camp, Gypsy Campground, something or another. And so that one's coming up. And then after that will be the one at Big Iron, Big Brutus, sorry. Big Brutus. And then from there, the last one will be camping at Moore, and you get a plaque. And each one of these camp outs, you get a patch, and they nest together. And at Moore, if you've been to all the other camp outs, you get the little plaque, you put them on there, and it's a great concept. Rhino from Rhino Built came out with this driving back from SEMA, I believe he said. And it's just a good time. But that kind of leads us a little bit into what we're going to talk about tonight. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about communities. And when I say communities, not like the one you live in your neighborhood, but communities and land. And here lately, some of you may have seen some of these types of conversation in social media. And I got to thinking about it, and I told Ashley tonight, I was like, hey, this warrants having a conversation. It's a little frustrating sometimes. But anyway, here's a takeaway from the camp out. And I'll back up. So when the first camp out was at here in Oklahoma, I had this thought in the back of my mind that I would, since Oklahoma's not really known for a lot of the overlanding. I'm doing the overlanding quotes here.
We're prairie land. It's flat.
I know, right? But still, I know there's a lot of people around here that enjoy this kind of thing. So I took it upon myself to try to help with some of the community, building the momentum and getting more people there, and it backfired. No big deal.
Yes.
For this one, it was just fantastic. There was a lot of people there. But here's the takeaway. And one of the tangled up in cords. Sorry. One of the takeaways was everybody gets to camp, and it's funny. You get these groups. There's a group here. There's a group over there. There's one way, way, way back over here. Right. And then there's a group here and one thing or another. And I don't know how hard I'd say I tried, but I tried hard. And I had people that were near us or near me break out fire pits and things like that. And we had a whole line. I think we had 5 or 6 maybe, of the pop-up fire pits, and we kind of scattered them around in a proximity area, built fires in the hopes that we could lure people over from some of these other outside groups that were, established.
Right.
Bring a chair and hang out so that we could have the opportunity to meet some new people and build a relationship and talk about the things that we enjoy doing in the outdoors. And very little of that happened, and I was a little disappointed in it.
So that's not the first time I've heard that that's happened. So I've heard with other campouts events that have happened, even locally. I've had some friends go to one where it was the very first one that we couldn't do last year due to we had that Arctic freeze come through, and the camper, one of the valves broke. It actually cracked, and we didn't realize it until we went to put water in the camper, and you've got water spraying inside, and it was an oh shit moment. We couldn't, we had to bail last second to go, and we find out later that our friends were, just like that type of situation where there's groups over here and groups over here, and they're trying to engage with the other groups, and they're not being receptive. And I, as everybody knows, I talk all the freaking time, and now my dog is going to go off. So sorry, guys. I don't know what his problem is. Hold on. That's terrible. I just had to yell at my kids to go take the dog out. But they, I talked to everybody. They at Tulsa Rigs and Coffee, they deemed me the social butterfly because I just can't not talk to you. And when we go to Moore and we go to Rendezvous, we walk around and look at other people's rigs, and we talk to them, and we crash their camps, and sometimes we send the kids in to do weird, funny stuff.
Or Jeff wears a kilt.
And his buddies are wearing kilts, or they're walking around in fanny packs and cut off t-shirts. But we always try and socialize because that's how you get your community to grow. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You want to build that community where you're stuck on a trail. You know that, hey, I met these people. They were nice. I know they had a radio. Maybe they can hear me and they can come get me, or, something.
True. Absolutely. And I think we inherently I think it's just part of our human DNA to an extent, is that we tend to flock. What does that say? And birds of feather flock together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think sometimes we tend to migrate towards the folks that we already know, that we're already comfortable with having conversations or camping with,
right?
Instead of doing something out of the norm. Now, let me just set this scene for you. Imagine you roll into camp at this polar bear camp out,
mm-hmm.
and there's a group of people here. There's a group of people down there, over there. There's 5 or 6 big groups, and there's, 8 or 9, maybe plus rigs. And you just roll up and pop up and say, hey, I mind if I camp with y'all? And you don't know them from anybody.
Right.
There's going to be some of them that are going to be like, heck yeah, man, jump in here.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some of them be like, wait, who is this guy? That kind of stuff. And you may or may not be received well, no matter what your intentions were. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I wish we had that a little bit more. We had people that just, tried to break down that barrier, I guess, if you will, of everybody being in their clique and their group. So I'm going to make this an effort at Moore this year, at the next camp out, even in at Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it a point to, instead of just sitting my lazy butt in the chair wherever I'm camping, I'm going to go take my chair and go over to somebody else's area, and I'm going to see if I can't strike up a conversation. Now I might get shot. Who knows?
You are not. I mean,
but I'm going to try to at least do it, because I think I think we're all missing out on something pretty valuable by not cultivating those relationships with other people that enjoy doing the same thing that we do.
I agree. I mean, that's how our little group that we typically camp with, our orchestra, and I'm putting this in quotations because, I mean, typically if like at Moore or at Rendezvous or Big Iron and the big campouts that we've gone to, there's us and our two buddies, our two other families that we typically camp with. They all have the same type of camper, the taxi cricket camper.
Right.
And we discovered that how we found this, it's quite comical, but 3 or more crickets are called an orchestra. So we call ourselves the orchestra, and we always park the 3 crickets in a U shape together.
Right.
Because that camper is such a unique shape and setup, people are always stopping by to ask, can they check them out? And then the fact that there's 3 there.
It looks like it's been hit.
Does not look like, well, I mean, people always, when we traveled with it, people stop us at gas station and ask us if the doors are open.
Yeah.
But we love it. We love that people just come in and hang out and talk. And typically the boys have beer and they're offering anyone who stops by a drink. And
clarify the boys meaning adults.
The adult boys. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's clarify that.
The grown men that, well, I can't even call them grown men because of the shenanigans that they get into.
Man children.
The man children.
Man children is the proper term for that.
The man children get into, they offer, beer or water, whatever, but we sit there and we just talk and we make friends with everybody. Hence why they ended up in a kilt after at Rendezvous, but who knows what they'll come up with them more. So yeah,
I think getting out of your comfort zone is a little bit it is uncomfortable, obviously. It is. I'm doing something tonight that I've never done before when it comes to these shows. I'm actually this live broadcast is actually on my personal Facebook page, and I've never done that. I usually keep my personal Facebook page and things like that totally separated from all the other things that I do. But tonight I thought, hey, if I'm going to preach this, about kind of going out of the comfort zone and doing something, maybe I should try something a little different. And so that's what I did. I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw it on my Facebook page too, which I don't normally do. Hey, we'll see what happens.
Hey, I mean, Jeff always shares it. His personal, which ends up tagging me. So it's out there. And now I've got Josh on here going, Ashley's a bad influence. Josh, I would love to see you get involved with the boys and their shenanigans and run around in a kilt. Like, I'd probably pay big money for it.
She technically is a bad influence, but
no, I'm not. I provide entertainment. I'm animated.
Let's clarify that kind of entertainment before everybody starts going way down some weird rabbit hole.
I provide entertainment
is that she's the ditzy ding dong, ha ha ha. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You can't pull the whole blonde joke thing. My hair's not blonde
anymore. You dye your hair, and we all know it. Just like we know you turned 50, not 40.
I did not turn 50. Oh my God. You're going to cause me to have a complex. But yeah, I mean.
Hey, look, only when you turn 50 do you fall asleep at your job.
No, that's not true. No.
I'm just teasing. No,
you get really sick with flu and COVID and you fall asleep when you fall asleep at your job too.
Absolutely. Totally fair. Yeah. The, getting at camp and anyway, back to what I was going to say was at Moore this year, I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to visit and I'm going to walk around to some different areas that I wouldn't normally be in or go to and meet some new folks and see if we can invite them to, hang out in some of our events or go on some trails with us, go camp with us, whatever the case may be. I'm going to try something different.
I like it. I'm down, but I talk to everybody. So,
well, I mean, I usually do too. I'm all over the place doing radio shows and interviews and one thing or another. So I'm all over the place, but here's a perfect example. Last year at camp, who's Ashley
Yeah.
turning 50 isn't the end of the world.
I know,
No,
Cindy. I just don't need him giving me more shit than he already does.
look, we know you didn't really turn 50, but it's fun for me, and I enjoy the fact that I know that one little bit of what I say gets under your skin.
Oh, I'm aware.
So that's why I do it. Anyway, last year at camp, speaking of Cindy, who's going to host the camping facilities and does a fantastic job at the Moore Expo.
She is amazing. I don't know how she keeps it all straight. She's everywhere.
I'm with you. I found myself I'd go down to my tent because I had the Audi cab on the truck, and that's pretty much it. I walked over to see AJ Williams, and that was about it. But there were so many cool rigs. There were so many different people out there that, looking back, I think I missed some valuable opportunities to connect with some other people, and I don't want to do that this year.
I mean, we're really good about getting up and going to look at all the rigs. So, and we purposely camped so far in the back of the Moore campground area for the vendors that we had to walk through everybody in order just to get to the expo.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We just would randomly talk to people or, say hey. And it's something fun. And like I said, the cricket draws a lot of attention. Jeff, is going to have the Wander Oklahoma booth this year, and he has a concept that, as he mentioned here, that's going to be tied to this.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with this conversation. Yeah.
So you guys will all have to go find him at the expo. I'll be running around everywhere. So,
to be honest with you, I kind of volunteered him for a project. I don't know if it'll come, and happen, but.
Does he know that you volunteered him?
No, he doesn't know.
That's awesome. Sounds like me. Normally he accuses me of pimping him out, so now you're doing it.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I did volunteer him twice, actually, to two people who have the same idea or are working on the same idea, I should say.
Awesome.
And so yeah, I kind of sort of did do that, but I didn't. I think I knew Jeff or know him well enough that. He'll just roll with the punches, unless it's something bad. But it would be something he would be interested in, like overseeing a live build at the expo.
Hey, no, Lord, you want him to go live, do another Viper cut live at the expo like he did a couple years ago?
Yeah.
He's always in. I volunteered him to climb underneath my dad's house to check the plumbing after the freeze. So
nice. The other parts of this conversation with the community things and how we tend to, I guess, group ourselves together is let's talk a little bit about the lands that we have out there. Now, some of you that are in groups that I'm in, that Ashley's in, when it comes to social media, may or may not have seen this trend, and I think the trend is coming. I think it's gaining momentum, and the trend is, and Ashley kind of used the term earlier, is trolling or baiting, I guess, if you will. Keyboard warriors. But there's a lot of trails that are getting shut down for various reasons, and we can all point fingers and say it's the side-by-side guys that are tearing up the trails. It's easy for us to point fingers at them. It's easy for them to point fingers at us and say, we're in huge groups, or, we're bigger, so we're tearing up the trails more.
Right.
It's easy for anybody, including us or side-by-side folks or whoever, to point fingers at influencers who are out there on these trails, or the ones who lead big groups of people. The fact of the matter is that every one of those that I just mentioned has, in some shape, form, or fashion, probably, and I say probably, contributed to some form, in some way, whether it was known or not known, either damage to a trail or, trying to waller out a mud hole, or I don't know, whatever it is. It doesn't, it can be intentional or not intentional.
Right.
And then somebody complains, and then the Forest Service sees the damage that's done, and then next thing you know, guess where we're at? We have a
Right.
trail that's closed. But the part that gets dirty is when it gets on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And people start pointing fingers. It's your fault, you guys that do this and you guys that do that. And everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a reason why they're right and everybody else is wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
the problem is I think we're all wrong and we're all right at the same time. There is such a oxymoron or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, and instead of pointing the fingers at it, we all need to collectively, as a group, come together and fight back against a lot of these things that are getting these trails that are getting closed down. I do believe that in some cases it's good to close some of the trails just to allow them some time to naturally, as things would occur,
Mm-hmm.
Grow back or whatever. What I would prefer to see would be a relationship with the Forest Service or the BLM or whomever it is, where they could reach out to groups like the Blue Ribbon Coalition or Leave No Trace, Tread Light, Kiss My you know what, but they could reach out to them and say, hey, we don't want to close this trail down. Let's find a way to get together and let's,
Use your social media presence to
and rehab the trail.
Right.
Yeah. Encourage positive use of the trail. Have some people who are advocates that spend a lot of time out there. Get out on these trails, and when they see some other people say, hey, man, here's a flyer. This is something you need to know. The Forest Service is thinking about closing this down. This is why.
Right.
Or go out and do some rehab work. I'd be willing to jump in and, check. Wait a minute. Let's catch up for a minute. Okay, we'll stop right there. We'll do a few comments. Cindy said we had a great conversation. Met a lot of neat folks around the campfire at Moore Expo. Camp check-in tent. We hope people wander in to say hi and meet others like-minded if they have a few minutes. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Absolutely.
Cindy was playing with, there was somebody there that had a puppy. I do not remember the lady's name, but she made Emma's weekend that weekend for letting her play with the puppy. And it was a little tiny dog. And so, it's not always just overlanding related that you bond with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the damn side by side.
Hey, you know what? You can't say much because there was bonfire last year. I ended up on a narrow trail.
Yeah.
Took a turn somewhere. Gaia wasn't working anymore, lost cell reception, and, ended up on a side-by-side trail. And there were parts where you were having to snap some branches, and I felt terrible because we couldn't get through. And then I ended up with a bunch of side-by-sides behind me. They were nice about being patient for me to go through, so until we can, pull off to the side where they can go around me and I could figure out how to get back onto a normal trail.
And I think that's, I think that things like this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they happen a lot more frequently than we think. And you know what? And this leads me to something I was thinking about too, is when somebody makes a mistake, like what you just described, it's really easy for somebody or people out there to jump on the bandwagon and just start, it's like a pack of dogs. You find the one wounded animal, as they say, and everybody gangs up on them. It's easy to gang up on somebody. And I think that if somebody makes a mistake, it's easier just to go, hey, I did this. I made a mistake, but I figured it out.
Right.
The people that were there helped me, and, they were patient and understanding. We need more of that kind of stuff versus everybody trying to go, you're a, what kind of idiot and this, that, and the other. And
they probably thought I was an idiot, but
beside the point, they didn't
make me feel that way.
Right. And in social media, which we all know how social media works, you have these groups where somebody preaches something. The problem is they preach it saying, saying things one way. Somebody says, no, I've seen you do this. But instead of just admitting, hey, look, I made a mistake too. I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
And just because the map says it's so or not so doesn't always make it 100% perfect. I don't care what platform you use for mapping on trails. There's always going to be a room for error because garbage in is garbage out. You just got to remember that. And but they'll jump.
Because you don't know that the people who mapped that could have been in a side by side, or could have been in a Jeep, and that trail's too small for, a full size vehicle, or the 4Runners are wider, and
but the Forest Service makes mistakes.
Right, they do.
When they publish their maps, they're not perfect. What I hate to see is somebody who blatantly abuses either a closed trail or cuts down a tree or parks in the middle. Here's one. This cracks me up. So you park your rig in the middle of a creek and take a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really that bad?
No.
Because what happens is if you or I park our truck in the middle of a creek, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we get out, we take a picture of it. It's this beautiful picture. You got some mountains in the background, but the whole marriage. People are going to just start pouncing on you in social media.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that those same people will be in a group of 15 or 20 rigs that all cross that same creek. And 2 or 3 of those probably had leaky seals or an oil leak underneath the bottom of it. And they splashed all that water and they started washing all that contaminant off of it. You stop for a minute to take a picture and all of a sudden you're the bad guy. But those people that went through that same trail are washing off all the grud and grime and oil and, whatever it is that's underneath their trucks in that same river, but they're not upset about it.
Well, and there's that, but there's a lot of people who believe that you just shouldn't do water crossings. And I get their concept is you're destroying that ecosystem just even a little bit by driving through it. You've messed it up, and you've caused it to be imbalanced for a little while. You have to be respectful of you got to be respectful of the land. You got to be respectful for the earth. It's not always going to be around there. You're not always going to have access to it if they keep having to shut the trails down for that reason.
Yeah. And Chad's got a good point. There needs to be a little more two-way conversations other than just shut down the trails. How about give
Agreed.
Some opportunity to fix things or something
right.
of that nature.
Like with our Goose Island cleanup, we teamed up with the Army Corps of Engineers and we did the big cleanup.
Yep.
Opportunities like that and groups that'll take the time and go out and do those things. The trail cleanups are massive. And I wish that we had access to more places like that here where we could take Wander, Oklahoma and go clean up the trails, take Tulsa Rigs and Coffee and go do something like that. There's just not anything in this immediate area. But I've heard that like the Sugar Loop down further south in Oklahoma, it's starting to get really trashed. And, I'd like to plan a trip where we can get a big group and go do a camp out and go do a trail cleanup out there. And, if you take shovels, if you have to, and fix trenches and things like that.
And the funny thing about that Sugar Loop is
you don't even need 4-wheel drive. It's just,
you don't need 4-wheel drive. And up until probably a year or so ago, that really wasn't that well known.
Right.
Now it is. Mm-hmm. And I dare say that most of the ones that are doing that trail are people in some of these groups that we see or that we're in. So Are they the problem? Probably not, because most of them think the same way. Now, not everybody does. I've been on trails and seen people and just, for lack of better words, would like to have unloaded on them. But, and just, giving them the riot act over the whole, throwing something out of the windows or look, you go poop, dig a hole, man. Don't just do it and leave your paper and stuff on the side, but there's a lot of people that do that. I don't know that they do it maliciously. I think some people just aren't educated. To be honest, I just think some people really aren't educated. So
It's not second nature. I didn't start camping until I was well into my 20s, and there for a while I hated it, and you could not convince me to go to the bathroom outside. I had to have a toilet. So there's a lot of people that just don't know. I was one of them for a long time, but just educate, team up and educate, be nice about it. And there's no reason why the Forest Services should be shutting down the trails without chances of us getting to go out and actually clean them up.
Yeah, I'm working to try to get the Blue Ribbon Coalition group on with us one night to talk about it. One of the things that I think we face here in this part of the country, and for those of you who don't know, we're in the Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas area, is that Missouri and Arkansas have quite a bit of Forest Service roads and trails. Because you have the Ouachitas and the Ozark National Forest, you have the Mark Twain, and then even Southeast Oklahoma actually has some really nice trails. I was down, on some not too long ago, and never really spent much time down there, but it was beautiful. Is that these big organizations, while they may put a little effort into what we do or this part of the country, it's not as a big focus as it is out west, because that's primarily where everything happens, is out west. And no, I'm not jealous of that. I'm probably jealous I can't get out there more often. But
I'm jealous that I can't get out there more often.
But these organizations tend to migrate more into that part of the country because it is more populated, I guess, if you will, than it is here. Not any less important when it comes to keeping trails open, but we're not on the radar like they are out there. And I think that's a big thing for us.
Well, I think if we can get together and start doing more events that are doing the cleanups, even if it's just campgrounds, not just trails, it's going to bring that attention in versus just quietly doing it. Like Cindy commented over here saying that the Forest Service closed the only NF 4x4 trail in Wisconsin. The local ranger commented that he was shocked that they didn't hear any complaints about it. They're not posting about it. They're not giving us warning for chances for us to fix it. I know probably 90% of our group would sit there and go plant trees, go help plant trees and plant plants and do everything else that we need to do, just given that opportunity, and we haven't been given that chance.
Yeah, I think that sometimes if we were given that opportunity, you're right, we would probably head off some of these trail closures. What I would like to see the Forest Service do is, at the beginning of the trail, not all trails, but some trails, you have the little Forest Service marker.
Right.
I wish the Forest Service would put up a posted sign saying, warning, this trail is under, under scrutiny for whatever. And, we may shut this down, or we're considering shut it down, blah, 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 or whatever, and give us a chance to come in and say, hey, wait, what can we do to help fix this before it becomes something? Because I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a hardcore off-roader. It's not my thing. I enjoy getting out on the back roads. I enjoy getting out on some trails. I have a tendency to shy away from, if I'm on a trail with a group of other people, I cringe sometimes when we get to these mud holes, and I watch these guys just try to break the sound barrier getting through a mud hole. You know what I'm saying?
I can't say anything because the kids laugh at me. We'll drive down the road and there's a water puddle, and I'm going to plow through that water puddle. Even in just a Sequoia, I'll do the same thing with mud puddles.
But what I'm saying is, like, they're burying their vehicles in these mud holes. And
I'm smart about it. I try not to go through the deep ones. But yeah.
But what they end up doing is just making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just entering into the mud hole at a slow pace and just, work their way through. And I realize that there's momentum and there's all these other things that go along with it. I get it. There's just sometimes if you're on the trail, this is how it is. If that's the case, can't we just go back in later and maybe somehow or another try to fix these places?
I don't know. I don't know. I agree. Just say no to
the bro splash. Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, I get it. I'm terrible. I have done this. We've all done it.
Yep.
But on a low water, like a concrete low water pass,
mm-hmm.
I've hit that thing hard.
Yep.
Now, with that being said, I didn't wash out any big ruts or holes, and I'm not justifying what I did was good or bad one way or the other. I'm just saying I'm as guilty of some of these things as anybody is. But I don't do it on the mud in the dirt, because what happens is it just ends up washing it out further and further till it gets to the point where you can't access the trail. And then guess what happens?
Mm-hmm.
Some dip, comes along and decides, well, hey, let's make a way around the mud hole. And guess what happens? We cut some trees and, that's what they do.
You're talking about the concrete washes, water crossings. So Josh, Okie Power Wagon or Power Wagon Okie, sorry, Josh, I can't remember which way it goes now. He, we'd met at Tulsa Rigs, and then he was an officer out in Mulgi, and Jeff took me out to some water crossing that's south of us, and I was having fun. I was taking the 4Runner through it. I mean, and it's a road. It's just a little gravel road, but it's a natural water crossing. And I was seeing how hard I can hit that water. And I had gone through it, turned around, went back through it, went back up this hill, went to turn around, came back down the hill as fast as I, just pedal to the metal, hit the puddle. And Jeff is videoing, and I stop. And he goes, "You're about to fucking get in trouble. You're about to get pulled over because there's this cop that's pulling up behind me." And it was freaking Josh giving me shit because he realized who I was. And just thank God it was him. But yes, so that's how our little friendship started. But
and the takeaway from all that is that nobody's immune from doing it. I think it's like a kid thing in us.
Mm-hmm.
The difference in doing it on a pavement or concrete area is I don't think you're really, contributing to a deeper rutted out trail system.
Right.
When you do that out on the trails, that's my point is you make these holes so deep that somebody comes along and instead of going through it, but wants to continue the trail, they make a new trail around it, mm-hmm. which is what we don't want them to do.
Right.
And then what happens when we come through there is we come through there and we know we can't traverse that big, huge hole. Mm-hmm. And so we see that bypass that somebody's made and we take it too.
Right.
We do.
We do.
So we're
the one out at Goose Island, that big mud puddle that never dries.
Perfect example.
I never drive through it. I have seen people plow through it. I know that it's, it's deeper than it looks. I don't know it's, in the mud. I don't know what type of rocks or anything like that are in there. And exactly how deep it is. So there's that pull off now. And that little pull off area just keeps getting a little bit wider and a little bit wider because now that is starting to rut out and get deeper and hold more mud. So people are just continuing to go around.
Yeah. I also think that it would be beneficial if the Forest Service or groups could go mm-hmm. out and at some of these areas work with the Forest Service to either one, drain off these big mud holes mm-hmm. or backfill them if they can. I mean, I don't know what the solution is, and I'm just spitballing at that. But
Jeff's over here popping off saying he's going to buy an overlanding skid steer.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that in lieu of one, shutting down a trail, or two, somebody making a new trail, why don't we fix what's there first?
Agreed.
If it's possible. And I don't want to bash on the side by side guys because there's none of them here at this very moment. But I will say that I have seen firsthand a few times some of the things that they've done, like just take off through the woods. I mean, just literally through the woods. And I think it's a bad deal. I think that's one of those things that just, yeah.
Anyway. I agree. And Cindy just put it best, or the local ranger said the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So we all need to sit and get together and make noise and get more of the events. You know, Steve's talked about the NFTR Foundation. You know, it's worked with the Florida forest area, and they're doing cleanups, and you know, but he's also making comment that's true. They're shutting down the trails and they're wiping out that forest area completely to build houses, to build shopping centers. If you're in Oklahoma, you know, they're building doctor's offices on every freaking corner. It's, you know, so.
That's because we're all unhealthy.
That's not the point.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But all this stuff ends up carrying over into the social media side of thing, which I really want to make sure that I kind of drive that home, is that it's easy for somebody, you, me, whoever, to get into social media and start pointing our fingers, but in some shape, form, or fashion, we've probably not blatantly done some of those things, but we've probably been part of it, or either did it, you know, and not consciously knew it. I wish that we could see, you know, the debate goes this way. If you're an influencer and somebody pays to get on your Patreon or whatever your page is, or however, to get the files for all the trails and your campgrounds, your camping spots and all that, does that really lead to getting these places shut down? And I think you're gonna have people on both sides of that fence, and you're gonna have this group of people who are gonna say, yes, that's what gets our stuff shut down. Then you're gonna have other people over here, primarily your influencers, but you'll still have other people who go, no, that doesn't.
Right.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it contributes to it, but it's not the sole reason. But in these social media posts and in these groups, it's easy for these people just to point that finger at the influencer and say it's your fault. I don't think it's their fault. I think that they contributed to it, but I also think that idiot that's pointing his finger probably contributed to it as well.
Well, it's just like what we talked about with the Sugar Loop. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that wasn't a trail that people really knew about.
No, not at all.
Somebody went on social media and talked about, you know, they're hitting this trail system, and it goes through the Sugar Loop, and it's a cool little feature that's in Oklahoma because there's not a lot of those. But, you know, it's kind of like a little canyon, and you're surrounded by the red dirt walls, and it's fun. It's unique. But so people want to start going to see it because they want to experience it. You just need to remember, if you're going to experience those things, leave it as you found it. Leave it better. You know, make your footprint small.
I wish that happened a lot more often. But yeah, that's a great example. The Sugar Loop Trail is a really good example. That was probably on virtually nobody's radar a short time ago. And now here we are. As a matter of fact, I won't say every day, but I'm going to say at least weekly, I see somebody posting about going and doing that trail or wanting to do it. And I think that leads to, you know, again, Oklahoma is not really well known for their trail systems, right? Right. And so You have a lot of people down that area near Oklahoma City that don't have anywhere to go, but they enjoy getting out and wanting to do something, and they find this as a way to get out,
Right.
and it's all they have, and so then it just becomes overrun. What does Cindy say about influencers? The problem with influencers is that a lot of people want their adventure spoon fed to them and don't want to explore on their own, so the published trails get the heaviest use. Man, that's profound. Yeah.
Cindy hit it right on the head. And, you keep saying that people point their fingers. People are pointing their fingers at you. They're pointing their fingers at me. I was always taught by my mom, don't point your finger at somebody because you've got 3 more pointing back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. And it's the truth. You've got to sit there and think about, if I'm going to point my fingers at you for saying that you're not doing this, well, am I doing it too? Or, or is it something that I can teach you?
Yeah. No, I can recall, and this isn't something that just started, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you all that are out there listening or watching, it seems like it's starting to become more, people are getting a little more aggressive maybe about it. And I don't say aggressive in the meaning of physically, I meant just verbally aggressive, that it's becoming a much more heated topic in social media than it has been. In the past, you had spurts. Somebody would post a picture and then somebody would say, make an off the cuff comment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the whole thing would start. And I remember these very well. I mean, 3-4 years ago, it was, groups of people that were camping and parking right on the edge of the riverbank, not back, 100 feet or something like that. I forgot what it is. See, there's another example. I don't even remember what it is. And then you had, some of them that were, taking people on trail rides. And then there was the whole, well, you're guiding people. Do you have a permit? And then that became a big issue. And then it was, dude, why'd you cut the tree down, on the trail and things? I mean, they're just, look, unless you're willing to go out and try to do something to fix some of this stuff, shut up. What's Cindy say?
One of my goals with Northology is to help people learn to explore on their own, where to find MVUMs and what tread lightly principles are, how to find campsites, routes, and make their own adventures, which is perfect.
Yeah, except for the tread lightly part.
Stop.
Suck.
Stop it.
Leave no trace. Blue Ribbon Coalition. That's where it's at. Cindy and I'll have to disagree.
The principles are still the same. How the company runs is different, and we're not going down that road.
Fair. That's fair. Michael's in the house.
What's going on, Mike? Their concepts are all the same.
You know
which
what?
Is what we've been lecturing and talking about all night.
Look what Michael just said. As a good group grows, so will the bad ones.
Agreed.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's agreed. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that you see now on social media is you have these little cliques. And when I started the show tonight, I was talking about the community and cliques. And they're there. Now you have the cliques and the social media side of things, out on these trails. But we got to do something because it's hard to even understand in the groups when you see the heated debates that go on in social media. It's very challenging to really know who's right or wrong without taking a moment to do your own research. And then what happens in the groups is somebody has an emotional connection to somebody that said something, whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And all of a sudden you've jumped on and you're part of that pack of the dogs and you start, and that's, there's none of us that are not guilty of that. We've all done it.
Yeah.
It's an emotional thing that you do, but do your research before you go slamming somebody in a group, do your research before you go posting that it's somebody else's fault and they're the reason that the trails are getting shut down. Because I think deep down inside you'll find that it's collectively everybody.
It is. We can all
So,
do little. They teach the kids, and what we tell the kids.
yeah.
Every little bit helps. You're going to spread. The more people that do it, the more that you're going to influence other people to do it. You have a bad experience somewhere, you're more apt to tell people about your bad experience than you are about your good experience.
That's
So same thing there. You're going to sit here and you're going to talk about, well, this person did this, and they trashed this trailer. I saw them throwing away trash, just throwing their stuff out on the side of the road. Well, other people are going to hear it and they're going to think it's okay, and it's going to continue to go. And we don't want that. We want to see the opposite, where people are picking it up and helping put things back.
Yeah, it is. And with that being said, we are coming up on the top of the hour. So we've done almost an hour.
Yep.
And I'm grateful to everybody who joined in, watched, or listened. We will take this and turn it into our podcast, and it'll be posted so you can download the podcast and listen to it. We'd appreciate it if you shared it with some of your friends, or you went on to some of the podcast platforms or wherever and left us a good review. We'd appreciate that. And we got a few more comments coming in here. Let's see. Open all the roads to all the places, even the old forgotten roads.
Agreed. I like it.
I do.
The more you know.
Yeah, remember those? They don't do those on TV anymore, do they?
No.
Remember how they used to do those? The more you know.
Yeah.
I think that became a political thing because it didn't align with certain media. Anyway, that's another show too, right there.
And say we didn't even talk about the other topic that I had brought to the table. So we're gonna have to do different.
We didn't, and it was a valid topic. And I think what we should do is maybe next week we'll continue this discussion a little bit further. I'm going to get some examples together, or at least I'm going to attempt to get some good examples. I'm going to share these examples. I don't want people to go forming opinions one way or the other against what I'm going to show you or what I'm going to. Yeah. But Ashley does. She received a message from one of our mutual friends.
Mm-hmm.
And
so everybody think about this for next week's show.
Yeah.
To put your opinions out there when it comes to carrying your gear on your vehicle, how you think it affects your vehicle, how it affects the tipping radius when you're on the trails, heck, fuel, everything, just how you drive your car. The more that you put on your vehicle, the higher your vehicle goes up when you're putting things on the roof. Think about those things. I'd like to see everybody's perspective.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to know, what people think about it. I have, like, many opinions of differences, but absolutely, I think it's something that's worthy of a discussion. Chad, I will call you as soon as we hang up and we're done.
You're in trouble that you have to call him after this.
No, we're going to talk about pew-pews, probably. Oh. But, and then Cindy, the transcript will be available. All the transcripts are always on. If you go to the Overland Podcast Network and see the Overland Radio Show there, all of our shows that are broadcast live, we turn them into podcasts. Each one of those episodes will have a transcript, have show notes, show quotes. So this is all AI driven.
Y'all got him started on this again.
Yeah.
His AI.
So it's all AI driven. I've built this whole thing. It'll extrapolate everything out. So go click on any of the shows. This particular one. It'll take me about 2 days, but we'll get it there for you, Cindy. And we appreciate everybody jumping in. And listening.
Go find us on Apple Podcast. Go do those reviews. I've at least rated myself stars, but I'm not going to do a review on myself. Sorry, guys. I draw the line there. I'll at least do the stars.
we for those of you who don't know, we got axed off of Apple Podcast because somebody complained. I don't know all the. I just know that somebody complained. We were removed, and we were immediately put back on once I realized it and sent in a rebuttal. But we lost all of our ratings. So anyway, thanks again to everybody. Hope y'all have a good night, Ashley.
Yes.
I will
Thanks,
see
guys. We'll see you
you
next week.
week.